Wall Street Unplugged looks beyond the regular headlines heard on mainstream financial media to bring you unscripted interviews and breaking commentary direct from Wall Street right to you on Main Street.
How's it going out there? It's December 6th. I'm Frank Curzio, the Wall Street Unplugged Pie, so I break the headlines and tell you what's really moving these markets. Yeah, I think I'm becoming one of those crazy parents. Just yells like a maniac in the stands where their kids are playing sports. Both of my daughters playing on their sports teams, one for middle school for basketball, the other for 10th grade, high school, and soccer. And I just went to my second soccer game this week for my oldest daughter. And her team is really, really, really bad. Really bad. And you know, I'm being honest. Hopefully no one from the school listens to this podcast, especially the coach. But, I mean, they're so bad that they haven't, the last two games, they did not have one shot on goal. Think about that. This is soccer. Not one shot on goal. I mean, they didn't even have an offsides call, right? Which is when you're hanging and you're kicking it far. You know, and it's funny with soccer because if you get beat, you could just stop and it's, you know, a lot of times it's offsides. They don't have like a blue line, right? Just you pass the offensive person, past the defensive person. When the ball gets kicked forward, it's offsides. Usually if you're playing offense, you're playing aggressive. You're going to get offsides calls. You see it in professional soccer all the time, or everything. They haven't even had an offsides. They're not even playing offense. They don't even pass the ball to each other. But the ball just comes to them and they kick it. And all the teams that they're playing against, they pass it like 6-7 times, pass even, and just score. And I'm like, you're 2 months in now, 10 games probably. All I want to see is you progressively get better. And last game, they played away. And if you know the away stadium, they usually have the stadium. It has a track around it, so it's like a football field, but they turn it to soccer field. And on the other side, they have small benches, which, by the way, I was the only one on the other side. Right, I walked all the way around there. On the side that you walk right into, it's usually like the home seat. The other way is the away seats, and I'm the only person there because it's a little cold. It's 50 degrees, 55 degrees in Florida, which is like the equivalent if you live in New York to about 20 below. I mean, people wear like, scarves and earmuffs and stuff like that. So I'm on this bench by myself, but I'm pretty close, like, to both of their benches, and I'm voicing my opinion. Like, I'm just like, come on, like, what? This is a joke. Like, that kind of like turn around at me, but I never want to be one of those parents. When I was a referee for basketball, I actually kicked a parent. I only did this once in my life. I kicked a parent out of the gym because just cursing at really freshman kids and just cursing like a maniac. And I gave the bench, the team, a technical foul, kicked them out, and it was crazy. But sometimes parents go nuts. But, I guess I'm becoming one of those parents that are vocal and just, sit there and watch the game. But when I see it, they're not even passing to each other. And the goalie gets it and kicks it right to the other team. The other team scores. This is 10th grade. This isn't like 4th grade. And I'm like, come on, they got to get like better, right? They should be passing the ball to each other a little bit. I mean, I really know nothing about soccer and coach the team better. It's just, come on. Anyway, let me get advice from you guys. You do the same thing at your kids' games and go crazy? Or is it just you sit there and you're like, you don't really care? Because at the end of the day, 99.9% of them are not going to make it on a professional level. But still, if I'm going there, I'm driving to the game in the middle of the day, which a lot of these games take place at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock. They think like nobody works. Got to leave early, get everything done early. And you go there, and they don't have a shot on goal. You know how boring that is in soccer? It's not like basketball. You're going to shoot, you miss. All right, good try. All right, that's cool. Like tennis, you get a couple points. You didn't get a shot on goal in 2 games. Holy cow. I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm out of line. Feel free to email me. FrankCurzioResearch.com. Anyway. Earnings season officially over. The markets are kind of as boring as the soccer games I was watching the past couple of days. Nothing really going on, right? Good, because earnings season's over. Gonna get jobs data later this week, which comes out the first week of every month. So all the big stories out there, and you know there's not a lot of big stories when CNBC is really pumping this. The largest banks and the CEOs are testifying on the Hill today, which is the most boring shit in the world. Again, the banks are going to talk to Congress and say how we want to have less capital ratios, and even though we're reporting near record profits last quarter while firing 20% of our employees. It's going to be an interesting conversation, I guess. But I really don't want to watch that on TV. So we've got a lot of boring stuff going on. But what's not boring right now is this incredible move in crypto. And I said crypto. I didn't say just Bitcoin, Ethereum, which a lot of people follow, and Bitcoin surging, 44,000. Ethereum's 2,200. Most people know about those. Crypto in general, a lot of the good names are starting to surge. And it's kind of remarkable when you see what's happened in this industry. I mean, BlockFi, Voyager, Celsius, Gemini, some of the biggest names filed for bankruptcy. Silvergate and Signature forced into liquidation by our government. So the SEC cracked down on all banks, right? Threatening them with penalties and audits if they do anything related to crypto. There's actually emails of this. If you guys do anything in crypto, you're done. We're coming after you. We're going to audit you. And then what does it do? It opens the door to the large institutions to launch ETFs. Good job. We saw the collapse of FTX. I think Sam Bankman-Fried, was he worth $24 billion at one point? $24 billion he was worth. Holy cow. All the fraudulent activity there. The market lose $2 trillion in value based on bankruptcies and the freezing many of investors' assets. Recently, a few weeks ago, we saw Binance get hit with a $4.3 billion fine. Top names in the industry, CZ, pled guilty to criminal charges. And he said, oh, you got to post $175 million in bail. And he reached in his pocket and said, here you go. There you go. I'm good. And they were so pissed. They're like, well, we're putting another $50 million fine. Reached in his other pocket. He's like, here you go. Going to go to jail 18 months. That guy's got to be worth $10 billion plus. At least. That guy has so much money, it's insane. Going to walk away. Good job for him. Not bad. Probably do it all over again. Criminal charges, 18 months in jail, worth $10 billion. You mean to tell me anyone on this podcast listening to this right now wouldn't do that? Yet, despite all of the garbage, all the negatives, all the craziness, right? These crazy events, stuff that would make investors say, I'm no way going near that industry. I mean, almost making the entire industry uninvestable. Bitcoin is up 175% this year. The best performing asset. I say, well, there's a better performing asset. Name it. Maybe there is. I don't know. I mean, the Nasdaq's up 36% year to date. One of the best years in 40 years. Up tremendously. I think it's up 10% alone in November. The S&P's up 19%. Dow Jones up 10%. Uranium has been on a tear. Uranium is on fire. Spot uranium price of over $80. But they're only up 80% year to date. Gold, all-time high. Gold's up 12% year to date. I feel like gold was at 1,900 for 2-3 years, I feel like. And it went down to 1,750 and then back up and pushed almost 2,000. But yeah, I feel like it's been near its all-time high for such a long time. Now that it pushes all the gold investors coming out, gold's on fire. It's great. Is it? I mean, you have 12% year to date. Look at an asset class that's underperformed everything over the past 10, 12 years. Since 2013. And you're better off generating probably 0.2% interest on your money. And it'd be better than gold. That's how bad that investment's been. And for a very long time. And if you're looking at the stocks are still down 30, 40, 50, 60%. You look at gold prices where it's not going to be related to especially junior miners where they're not producing anything. The large producers are Newmonts. Gold goes higher, the margins go higher. It makes sense. These other companies, they don't generate revenue. They dilute the hell out of you. It's only to pay their bills. They're into founder shares. They don't care. They're into, most junior. If you look at the executives of these companies, they're into like 7, 8, 9, 10 different companies. They're always pitching me different ideas on different companies. I'm like, shouldn't you be focusing on your company? But they're not going to benefit so much from higher prices, gold prices. I mean, no one's coming and buying them for the ounces in the ground right now. They're not. Are you seeing that? You seeing junior miners get bought? I'm not. I know the industry very well. I haven't really seen it. In fact, if you look at the whole S&P 500, there's only one stock that's up more than Bitcoin year to date. And that's not too hard to guess. NVIDIA is up just over 200%. Compared to 175%, Bitcoin's up. Again, year to date. Now, you have skeptics out there, and they're going to tell you, well, we have interest rates coming down. That leads to more money pushing into speculative assets like Bitcoin. Funny, though. If that's the case, you probably see meme stocks hitting new highs, and they're not. So GameStop have a little bit of a run there, but well off their highs. You see small caps killing it right now. The Russell 2000 is only up 5% this year. It's made a nice run over the past, since November, along with everything else in stocks. But you would see the move in almost every speculative asset going much, much higher, not just Bitcoin. But Bitcoin, and hear me out here, guys. This move higher, it's not temporary. It's not a fad. It's not seasonal like we're seeing in the stock market, right? The funds playing catch up. Since most are underperforming their benchmark, they generate alpha. That's what they call it. Or how CTAs might be new to you, commodity trading advisors. A lot of money surfs momentum, so they take long and short positions. They bought $225 billion worth of stock during the past month on this rally. See that momentum pushing it up. You want to know why November was such a great month and the stocks are trading so much higher? It was more than seasonal. They've gone up the best month, almost 40 years. But by the way, Goldman tracks this stuff. They track it religiously, and they said it's the fastest increase in exposure that we've ever seen from CTAs. In other words, this is going to unwind eventually, I would say the next couple months. But if you're looking at this, Goldman came out and said, look, we don't even know if there's anyone else to be bullish out there. Where's the money going to come from? Think about that for a minute. If you're looking at what they're projecting over the next couple months, they're projecting a pretty big pullback. Morgan Stanley, Mike Wilson's been bearish forever, I know. But also JP Morgan is expecting the markets to come down 10% next year into an election year. Because that's how far advanced we've got. You can say, well, there's a new bull market. It's great. Like I said earlier, bull markets, you don't see companies laying off. Almost every company, S&P 500, is laying off employees. They're cutting costs. Their sales are not going higher. Their earnings are going higher because they're cutting costs. In bull markets, you see more money going into things. You see more investments, more CapEx. They're cutting back on all this stuff. You're hearing it from the software companies. You hear it from the cloud companies. You hear it from the major technology companies. But nobody cares right now. You have government money flowing in. It might flow in next year into an election year. The market usually does well. But then again, it doesn't come off with the NASDAQ going up, 35, 40% in a year either, going into an election year. Let's see what happens. But this isn't seasonal or a fad when it comes to Bitcoin. It's real. It's something that we've been saying since September because there's lots of short-term catalysts that we pointed out, but not just short-term, long-term. We've been saying short-term catalysts. There's lots of them. It's the reason why we offered a special discount to Crypto Intelligence. We lowered to a price where we said, listen, guys, get it. And I'm not saying this because I'm patting myself on the back. I want you to make money. That's my goal. We don't get paid by companies or anything like that. I want you to get in when it's right. And a lot of times, people get in when a trend is red hot, which is the worst time to get in. When you're looking at where you got in and where a lot of new subscribers have come in, I mean, the gains that you've seen in that newsletter over the past 3 months, we're up 83%, the average position in that portfolio. When people say, well, Bitcoin's on fire and Ethereum's on fire, it's not just that. It's a lot of names and a lot of good names. And the move high, it's a secular change. It's being fundamentally driven. You might say, by what? Well, we know ETFs are coming. It's a big deal. And it'll take a while before people really have exposure to Bitcoin. But for the first time, people are going to have exposure where they don't have wallets. They can invest in 401ks. We're talking tens of trillions in assets. Tens of trillions. And there's lots of ETFs coming. You want me to pull up a chart for you right here if you watch this on our YouTube channel. So I'm pulling this. So you see Grayscale, ARK, iShares, Bitcoin Trust, Bitwise, VanEck, WisdomTree, Invesco. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 Bitcoin ETFs are on their way. And ARK is probably going to get approved first, so you're going to see massive marketing come out. That's what you see marketing everywhere, all over TV, all over CNBC, all over the news channels when this happens. And their approval, and it has the first deadline, second, final deadline, it looks like they're going to get approval within the first, second week of January. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 others that are projected to get approved in mid-March. That's an important date to get approved. Okay, now you have tens of trillions of assets having access to crypto they didn't have. You have tens of millions of investors. Instead of, clicking out or clicking on their 401k that you want exposure to a small cap fund and a large cap fund, the S&P 500, and maybe a little international exposure. Now you're going to have Bitcoin. They're doing this because people want to invest in Bitcoin. And notice, like I said, the mid-March date. I mean, it's relevant here because when you look, the Bitcoin halving is coming up in April. And that's a big deal. That happens every 4 years. And these are the two things that we cited. These are just two catalysts that we cited. Okay, everyone's talking about these, so you could say it's largely priced in, and I would agree. But the halvings, if you look when they happened a year before, and the last one happened, I'm bringing up a chart here again. If you want to watch this on YouTube, now I'm going to explain it to you, Bitcoin halving. And what happens is it doesn't decrease supply, but it decreases supply growth, right? So the block is reduced by 50%, so it slows that supply growth, right? So, and you know, that's important. And the Bitcoin halving, there's a reason why, if you look, going back to first one, it took place 2012, then 2016, every 4 years, 2020, and now the next one's going to be 2024, April. But the year before and the year after, I'm showing the increases here, are amazing. It's 400% increase just before the halving, 700% increase after, and that was in 2012. I mean, 110% increase before the second halving, which is 2016. This is the year before, year after. That's what we're in that period right now. So I'm saying right now, where these names are the best names in crypto. You can buy the Microsofts, NVIDIAs, and Apples for 80% discounts. You don't see that unless you have a crazy, crazy black swan event, in which we basically had in crypto. Or what we had during the credit crisis, where 20% of the S&P 500 was trading under $10. What we saw when we had lockdowns. The S&P declined 36%, but a lot of stocks fell 60, 70, 80%, right? You don't get times like this. It's not often where you see catalysts like this. But the Bitcoin halving, great timing. These ETFs are going to be launched right before this, and that's going to be a very big deal because you usually see these big gains 1 year before, 1 year after. So these are just a couple of catalysts that we mentioned. And saying since, hey, you know, September, we're going to see a surge, Bitcoin, Ethereum. But now we're seeing the best and biggest crypto names. So it's nice when the average position on our portfolio up 83, 84% in the past 3 months. In fact, right now, if you take the average position of the entire portfolio right now, if you look at not just the last 3 months, is up 117%. Again, I'm not saying this to brag. You guys know I cover my losers more. I'm saying it because I'm very happy for my investors. That's the goal, right? It's the only thing I care about. That's what you pay me for. That's my job. When you pay me for my newsletter, that's my job, to give you ideas at the right time so you make money. This way, when you come in, you're like, this guy's real. Wow, I'm going to subscribe to his stuff for the next 10, 20, 30 years. The reason why I've been doing this for such a long time. But these two catalysts, now well known, everyone's talking about them. So when you see that Bitcoin ETF approvals, which again, it's going to lead to tens of millions of new investors, trillions of capital having access to Bitcoin, you could say for the very first time, because people just might feel uncomfortable going to Coinbase or having wallets and stuff. But when this happens, we may see a little bit of a pullback here in some cryptos and Bitcoin. Buying rumors, sell on news type event. And it will take a couple of years to see meaningful adoption once we see these approvals. But this is only going to be temporary. Because when you look at the ETF approvals and the Bitcoin halving, they're a small part of a much, much bigger story within crypto. For example, when you're going to see the Bitcoin ETF approvals everybody's talking about, we're going to see Ethereum ETF approvals. There's a lot in the works that are going to get approved, because once you approve Bitcoin, you're going to approve Ethereum. Not only that, you're going to see structured ETFs within crypto, actively managed crypto ETFs make their way into the market. You're going to see all these. Think about all the ETFs that were created for every single market sector, type of style of investing, everything. Same thing within crypto. That's what this opens a door to. More and more people owning not just Bitcoin and Ethereum, but all cryptos. When we look at the bigger picture here in this industry, there's so much more going on under the hood right now that makes us move different from past bull markets. Bull markets that, what have we seen? We've seen these massive bull markets, and then we've seen like a decline. And we've seen that since 2012, 13, 14. Bitcoin goes to 20,000, and then it pulls back to 6,000. And we go to every bull and bear market, but these new highs and then these lows. And these new highs, this time it's going to be different. And I can tell you why. First, Bitcoin is now a well-known asset. It's here. It's an alternative to gold, whereas an actual store of value. And if you look at gold being a store of value, I don't get it. I never got it. If you're looking at, wow, gold's going to go higher because interest rates are coming down. I talked to Dan about this. He brought up a good point. Okay, if interest rates are coming, how come gold didn't hit new highs when interest rates are zero? Higher rates are usually bad for gold because if you hold gold, you're not getting paid anything on it. So you have higher interest rates and you can put your money someplace else and earn an interest rate supposed to be bad. Now, the whole argument was like, yeah, but if you look at real interest rates, what accounts of inflation, then the real interest rate is still zero. The real interest rate isn't zero anymore. I mean, you have rates at 4 or 5%, whatever you want to take, the long, short, whatever, 4 or 5%, and inflation is 3%, 4% right now. So you have real interest rates that are positive, and gold still hasn't really done anything. You say, well, it's at an all-time high. It's been trading near its all-time high. It's up 12% this year. But now Bitcoin, if you're looking at the younger generation, they're never, ever going to buy gold as a hedge also against reckless spending by central banks. What we're seeing, we're supposed to be cutting back. We're not cutting back. That's a mistake I made this year, thinking like, hey, you know what? Stocks are likely going to come down. Be careful. We still did good in our portfolios. We didn't say sell everything. I was just saying you got to get worried. I didn't position ourselves in the biggest stocks that did the best, but we did pretty good considering. But wow, holy cow. I didn't expect another $1 trillion in spending from the government. All these plans getting approved. Are you kidding me? Holy cow. And it's still going on now. So they're not going to stop spending. And it's Bitcoin that they're turning to buy and hold for the rest of their lives. If you want proof of this, and there's another cool chart here. And this is like the long-term holders of Bitcoin. Okay, and this chart's a little all over the place again. If you want to see YouTube, it's definitely worth it. These are long-term holders. Long-term holders of Bitcoin, you know, again, people holding Bitcoin for a long period of time, is up to a new record of 76%. 76% of the people that own Bitcoin are holding long-term. Now, what does that mean? There's two lines in this chart. Okay, if you look at one of the lines is gray, and that's the price of Bitcoin. The other one is blue, showing the percent of long-term holders. And if you notice something, this chart goes back to 2011. But if you notice, even at 2011 to 2012, when the price of Bitcoin went up, these long-term holders used an opportunity to sell, which is normal. Okay, the market's going up. I'm going to take some profits, which is normal. You saw that in 2014. You saw that in 2018, prices went up, 20,000, and long-term holders came down tremendously. They started selling on that. And we've seen in 2021, prices started moving higher, right? 60,000. We saw long-term holders come down to percentage. For the first time ever, the price of Bitcoin is rising, and you're seeing a rise in the amount of long-term holders. They're not selling into this. I mean, are you a believer that Bitcoin is going to 100,000? I am. I don't know if it's going to happen in a year. I don't know if it's 3 months, maybe 3 years. But as it goes higher, think about what's going to happen to the rest of this market. It's not just Bitcoin. It's not just Ethereum. There's so many great names in this industry. Incredible innovation here. So I look at these charts and see this stuff. It's really incredible what we're seeing. So you have long-term holders, including Michael Saylor. I mean, how many people destroyed that guy? Just like Cathie Wood. Remember Cathie Wood in 2021, the market came down. They were destroying her. She was adding to positions. Or like she's out of her mind. Look where she is now. It just goes to show you, you know, when everyone's against you, and trust me on this, even from when it comes to stocks, when I have people saying, you're crazy, you're nuts, chances are you're going to be right. It's when everyone agrees with you, with your thesis that you think is contrarian maybe, or you think it's special and innovative, that you have to worry about it. So when everyone tells you, no, this guy's like Michael Saylor, even I doubt him, Michael Saylor, taking the cash balance of his company and putting it into Bitcoin. So he just bought another 10,000 Bitcoin in November from MicroStrategy, which now holds 175 million Bitcoins, one of the largest holders. He's not selling anytime soon. He has 7.7 billion worth at current price of 44,000. I think he's up close to $3 billion on his entire holding now from his average cost basis. He's never, ever, ever selling this asset. Now, who does that remind you of? It reminds you of somebody. Reminds you of a pretty good investor, Warren Buffett. Where buy and hold long term is a lost art. And there's even data supporting this. I mean, the average holding period for investors when it comes to stock has fallen to 10 months. And to compare, it was 5 years in the 70s, 3 years in the 80s, 1.5 years in the 90s, but now everything is short term. The information we get is immediate. It's instant. Results, like I get judged on a stock. If I recommend a stock goes up 20% in a month, they're like, you were right. That was great. It can go down 60%. I wasn't right yet. I mean, we have a long-term thesis on this. Let's see if everything plays out. It's kind of amazing how we're built now. Everything is short-term, short-term, short-term. I want to be a billionaire tomorrow. I need to make this money tomorrow. Not buying and holding long-term. How many of you out there are listening to this, seriously, that owned Microsoft, Amazon, and Apple at one time or another and sold it? Think about that. I have. I bet you every one of you have. Do you still own it? Good for you if you do. But most of you are like, oh, I had Amazon like 10 years ago. But you sell it. Because as soon as you hear all the news about something bad happening, and everyone says the same thing. It's so funny on CNBC. They're like, I'm going to own this into the quarter, and if it goes down, I'm going to buy more. Bullshit. Because the reason why it goes down is that they missed estimates or they fired their CEO, something happened or whatever. And this whole negative sentiment is on it's almost impossible for you to buy. You're like, oh, I didn't know it was going to be that bad. You know? But everything's short term. But now look at Bitcoin. It's not short term. People are holding this asset forever. And I could tell you, researching crypto for close to 7-8 years now, which makes me a dinosaur in the industry, most people I know who own Bitcoin are never, ever, ever going to sell it. They'll never sell it. Now think about what Michael Saylor's doing, what he talked about. And what do we have? 1.5, 2 trillion of cash in the balance sheets of corporations. Imagine 5-10% of this flows into Bitcoin, since inflation and money printing, right, it's going to continue to destroy the purchasing power of the dollar. And we all know central banks will never, ever, ever, ever stop printing money. We all know that for a fact. And we're talking about hundreds of millions of real capital flowing into Bitcoin, possibly. But again, it's not just a Bitcoin story. It's not just a Ethereum story. Ethereum has been up tremendously to 2,200 now. So close to 90% year to date. Amazing. Bitcoin gets all the headlines. But again, it's not just those two. The biggest and the best names in the industry, the ones with the most innovative technology. I'm going to talk about innovative technology that I've ever seen in my 30-year career. Technology is going to disrupt some of the biggest industries in the world. And now you have regulation coming finally, which is on the table. Now it's going to unleash innovation pretty much beyond anyone can imagine. That's how fascinating this industry is. And when I started my newsletter, Crypto Intelligence, whatever it was, 6 years ago, whatever, I said when I was researching this stuff, I'm like 90% of this is complete garbage. It's shit. It's filled with fraud. Probably puts in the same camp, percentage-wise, as fraudulent companies as junior miners. But the 10% I was researching, guys, was so fascinating, it blew me away. I mean, it's disruptive. It reminds me of like cloud computing in 2012, early stages of social media or data analytics. You know, trends most investors didn't really understand early on until the big gains were like already made in these sectors. You know what cloud is because now, you know, they have it on a consumer level. I need more cloud for my phone, for my iPhone. But cloud, I remember people looking at the cloud. What is it? I don't get it. Just unlimited storage. Unlimited storage of data. Then you throw in 5G, and now that brings in AI, which could analyze this stuff in milliseconds and be able to predict what you're going to do in the future. All these trends sync in with each other. But a lot of times, you realize this stuff, and it's too late. That's why I go to Consumer Electronics Show every year, which is a month away, and I'll be there. But today, when it comes to crypto, and please hear me out here, you're getting the chance to buy the next Microsofts, Nvidias, Apples at bargain basement prices. And you can't do this in stocks anymore. You just can't. Because they come out at crazy valuations when they IPO. I mean, Uber came out at $75 billion valuation before individual investors could actually purchase that stock. Rivian at $66 billion before you got the chance. Look how much growth is in there. Rivian's what, like a $15 billion, $12 billion market cap now? UPS, $60 billion. ARM Holdings, which is recent, $55 billion. Even Visa, which has performed well. If you're an investor who wanted to buy it for the first time, an IPO at $44 billion. Snowflake, $40 billion. That's why you see this mad rush in SPACs in 21, early 22. I mean, over 800 SPACs in 2 years were launched, raising $250 billion. And the average company post-merger is down more than 75%. 75%. You're like, wow, I could buy these things. They're only $10. Well, they're $1 now. You could still buy them now if you want. And look, I'm going to be real with you. Piss off a lot of my friends in the industry. I don't give a shit. I've been doing this for my entire life. I always say 30 years and 3 decades, but really, I grew up in this industry in my late dad, right? I used to talk about stuff like this when I was 8, 9 years old at dinner table. I was licking stamps, folding envelopes, putting them in bins, and we had to carry them into the car to bring them to the post office to send his newsletter someplace, right? When I was a kid, right? He paid me $5 an hour for doing that. Been this my whole life. I can honestly tell you that the stock market is 100% rigged. Even the financial newsletter industry is now rigged. I mean, it used to be the place to go to for average investors. They said, well, I don't believe in Wall Street, but this guy really knows what he's talking about. I like this guy. This guy's really cool. Like my father's day, right? Like 10, 12 people that you listen to, they had their own financial newsletter. So I'm going to follow this guy because I don't trust Wall Street. Now, the financial newsletter industry, it's become Wall Street. It's a pump and dump scheme. Get you into the biggest trends of the world, and that's it. And then, you guys subscribe to tons of newsletters. And selling your hopes and dreams then completely wreck you. And the best part of it, the guys that fuck you, they don't even get in trouble anymore. I mean, look at Chamath and Branson cashed out more than $300 million in Virgin Galactic. They lied about the company. They actually lied. I actually provided footage on a previous podcast, what they actually said about the company. This isn't a speculative investment. No way. We're going to be profitable soon. I mean, think about that. Telling that to everyone, all while they dumped the stock 18 months later, cashed out, and now they're saying, we're not going to fund it anymore, and the company's going to go bankrupt. It's just a matter of time. It's going to go bankrupt. Okay, nobody says this shit or calls them out, and nothing happens to these people. Nothing even happens to these people. I mean, we live in a world where you can get caught on camera doing shit, and you could be like, I watched Governor Newsom and DeSantis debate, and they'd be like good points back and forth, but, DeSantis, they put up figures and facts, and he's like, nope, that's not true. San Francisco's fine. Nope, it's great. No way. Like you could catch someone on video shooting someone in the chest, and they're like, I didn't do that. And the people who vote for them are going to be like, yeah, I don't think he did it. I mean, we live in a world that's just crazy, right? You used to get called for this stuff. It's on tape, what they said, what they did, and they get away with it. That's the stock market. But in crypto, it's a chance for you to invest in the greatest, most innovative technologies, but near the ground floor. With valuations in the tens of millions, not the tens of billions, right? That we see the valuations and these things IPO at. So if you hit a home run, right? If you hit Uber or Airbnb, it turned out to be an industry leader, you're in a very early stage. And the only way you could do that with those companies is by being a private investor, knowing the right people. But now you're getting in early where the returns have the ability to change your life. Like 50x, 100x, 10,000x. You think that's a crazy number? And I've never said that number, I don't think, in my life, 10,000x. I've never said that in my life. Sandbox was up 15,000x. Polygon was up close to 14,000x. Solana was up 10,700x. I'm not cherry picking here. You can go to the top 100 cryptos and trace them back just 7 years. Go back to 2016, 2017 till now. And despite all the ups and downs, you'll find a time when almost all of them saw more than 5,000% gains. If I had to guess, most of them, if not all of them, within that cycle. You can't say that for stocks. And now you're looking at crypto, the next cycle is here. I mean, it's going to disrupt the entire banking industry, the entire finance industry, bonds, which is a $120 trillion industry, real estate, which is a $600 trillion industry. I mean, you have the communication cycle. What does that mean? Well, think about the internet, TCP, IP, how it communicates. Without that, we just have data roaming around and nobody be able to transfer it. Or you need this communication, this network to communicate, and blockchains don't communicate with each other. Until now. I mean, think about banks. What you do, you transfer money from Venmo, PayPal, even Wire. It's very easy. It's a simple service. Quick, seamless, safe. Now, in crypto, you're going to see the same thing without using something called bridges, which bridge these things, and that's where most of the hacks come from. So it's always a problem. Now you're seeing technology come out where that communication, the network ability, so much so as Swift is exploring technology with one crypto, which we recommended 4 months ago. It's up 130% already. I think it's going to be up 1,000% for us. It's the most remarkable technology. But it's allowing all the blockchains within these banks to communicate with each other. And if you're not familiar with Swift, the largest banking system in the world, includes a network of 11,000 of the largest banks transfer money globally in an instant. I mean, it doesn't get bigger than that. And now they tested this technology, and it works within these banks. To make it seamless, safe, fast, cheaper. To me, that's amazing. And Swift you should be familiar with because it's why you see this de-dollarization trend, because the U.S. was not supposed to take Russia off the Swift system. They press a button and you destroy someone's economy. I mean, just the global trade within, they can't trade things back and forth. You're shutting off their economy. Like, whoa, we better get off the dollar here. And the dollar's not going anywhere. You guys, I talked about that. But you are seeing a trend where more deals within oil, within energy, with different things are being used in different currencies other than the dollar because that scared the shit out of them. What happens if they feel like, they don't believe in climate change as much as the U.S. Like, we're going to die tomorrow if we don't do this stuff, right? Sometimes this stuff's over the top. Then they could just shut you off, which is crazy. Look at tokenization. Guess you're familiar with our company. We tokenize our company, selling off a piece of that asset. Every single bank is launching their own blockchain right now, and they're going to begin to tokenize their private assets, which amounts to tens of trillions, if not hundreds of trillions of dollars in illiquid assets that they could sell pieces off of. And in order to do this, you need the blockchains to communicate. That's why this is such a big deal. If you don't believe in this trend, again, we were super early on it. Just Google it. Tokenization, Google. You're going to see a massive amount of stories over the past 3-4 months. Up to like yesterday, the day before, you see all these stories about these banks launching tokenization, how they're launching their blockchains. Massive trend. And a lot of these things are going to trade on a new exchange. It's going to be 24 hours where the New York Stock Exchange is likely going to be a thing of the past. This stuff is real. This is stuff that I've been digging into for 6-7 years. And maybe the crypto companies in the middle of these trends, which, by the way, are being funded by the richest and most innovative people on earth, like Jack Dorsey, Brian Armstrong. I mean, forget about politics, and if you like these guys, Kathy Wood, Mark Anderson from Anderson Horowitz, biggest venture capitalist fund in the world, Paul Tudor Jones, Mark Cuban, Eric Voorhees, Roger Ver, Justin Sun, Stephen Cohen, Bill Miller, Ray Dalio. That's just they're all into crypto now, funding this because they see it. But many of the most innovative names of cryptos in the middle of these secular trends are still trading more than 67% down from the all-time highs. And these highs are reached when? When Bitcoin traded at 66,000. Now it's at 44,000. I mentioned early, do you think it's going to go to 100,000? I do. I mean, I can't tell you when. But I know it's going to go there. When I look at Bitcoin, when I look at crypto, global adoption is here. It's different this time around. It's not a fad. It's not this temporary trend. It's not just because of the ETFs. That's opening the door up to this massive global market. It's not just a Bitcoin halving, because it takes place every 4 years. It's much, much more bigger than that. When you look at this global adoption, it's going to result in massive, massive gains for so many cryptos. And I'm not just talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I feel like that's a much bigger story nobody's talking about. They just talk about Ethereum and talking about Bitcoin and the moves in some of these names. And by the way, when I say 10,000% gains, I mentioned it earlier, something I never said in my 10,000% gains. And I want to put that in perspective for you. Because if you invest $5,000, that could turn it into $500,000. If you invest just $20,000, that could turn that into $2 million, which is life-changing. And we just saw a smaller crypto called Bitcoin Incognito. I don't know anything about it, but in one day, it moved 900% in one day. I mean, even on an FDA approval of a small cap company and biotech, you almost never, ever will see a gain like that off of an individual stock. You won't see it in the stock market. And when I say this, I'm not promising you or guaranteeing you anything here. You know what I'm saying? You're going to generate these massive returns. What I'm telling you, and I can promise you, is you're going to get the chance, the opportunity to possibly generate gains like that. And that's what you need to do with your speculative capital, a small portion of it. Don't throw your life savings in this industry. It's risky. But if I'm going to throw my stuff in here, I want to make sure that that risk reward is favorable. I don't want to risk $100 to generate $100. And if I'm taking on an excessive amount of risk, it should be at least 300%, 400%. But this is an industry where you could literally get 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times gains that you can't get anywhere else. Unless, again, you're a private investor, have access to special deals, getting in Coinbase. Some of these people got in, 10 million, 15 million. I actually covered this, and they came out at whatever, $100 billion valuation before it came down. It's doing better now. And I have access to some of these deals, which we offer through Curzio One membership, where, most of these deals you need to be an accredited investor. But for average investors who are expecting these returns, this is why it's such a big deal. This is why the ETF approvals are such a big deal. It's why you should be invested as a small portion of your speculative capital in crypto. I mean, for mom and pop investors, this is the lottery ticket, but with significantly better odds. And it's not a win or lose. It's not like, if I get this wrong, I'm going to lose. You can put stop losses on it to minimize your risk. You take small positions, what we do in our portfolio. But every single investor should allocate money to this industry. And even a small part of your speculative capital, because it's the only place that I know where if you hit a grand slam, it has the opportunity to change your life, your kid's life, even your kids' lives. And that's what we want to invest in, right? That's the speculative nature of this stuff. If I'm covering the stock market, you can't get that anymore. And that's what's opening up right now within crypto. That's what's so exciting. So it's not just these two short-term catalysts. You have the Bitcoin ETFs, that's great. The halving, that's great. But now new regulation coming, providing the framework where you could trust the industry now. You're not going to have these asshole kids launching some of these things that are crazy, that are just trying to steal money from people. I mean, more transparency, which leads, when you have transparency, now you have the big guys coming in with the capital because there's a regulatory framework. And what does that lead to? That's going to lead to more innovation. Now, I'm getting tons of questions on crypto, obviously, because we have a crypto newsletter. And I've covered this industry for a long time. Tokenized our company. I love this industry. People ask me, hey, Frank's a move for real. Should I just buy Bitcoin, Ethereum? How can I find trade the best tokens outside of just, a few of them? And because demand is so high in terms of the interest from you, I'm going to hold a special event to answer all these questions. So I'm calling it Crypto 2024. It's totally free to register. Totally free. Totally for you, most dedicated listeners. And it's going to be 100% live. I'm not talking about live where, it's live, but it's really taped, which you can see. It's really live. So any mistakes I make, you can make fun of me or whatever. And I'm going to answer your questions at the end of it and go into more detail about these trends, why this is game-changing, share a few ideas with you. It's going to be unscripted. In that Q&A, if you have any questions or whatever, but you could register. I'm going to hold it on Tuesday, December 19th, 7 p.m., just 2 weeks away. But you could register by going to CurzioCrypto.com. Okay, so it's CurzioCrypto.com, and I'm bringing this page up. So Tuesday, December 19th at 7 p.m., all you have to do is put your email in and register. It's absolutely for free. So you could register and not show up if you don't want to, whatever. Again, not selling anything. This is something I want to cover for you. We're getting so many questions. And again, my goal and what I get paid for and what I do is to try to get you into great ideas. The ideas I'm seeing in this, I feel like people are not talking about crypto on the level that I just broke out to you and talked to you about for the last 40 minutes, when I usually try to keep these podcasts to within 25, 30 minutes. But this is important. This is an industry that's here. It's going to get bigger. Regulations come is going to make it more transparent, more innovation. We're talking about disrupting hundreds of trillions of capital with some of these technologies. And I'm fascinated. I read this stuff 3, 4, 5 times to understand it because it's fascinating. We just recommended a stock in crypto intelligence that's coming out today. And you'll see me. I'm trying to explain this thing. I want to read it because it's difficult and explain. Again, this is the communication thing, what I was talking about. There's another company where, competitor to Uniswap, where you use that as a DeFi exchange with it's only on Ethereum network. There's flaws with that. There's flaws with PancakeSwap. This one's different, where it doesn't provide any bridges. It's much safer. And not only that, with Uniswap and PancakeSwap, which are great services, their tokens are actually worthless. They're absolutely worthless because if you're looking at these tokens and these cryptos, the value's only tied to the utility function, and there's no utility. So to holding this or to stake your coins or do everything, you don't get, like, as a token holder, you don't get rewarded. With this new technology, you actually get rewarded. It addresses all the flaws in terms of safety, in terms of scale. I mean, this is the new technologies that are coming out. It's backed by a huge, one of the biggest names within crypto. I'm sure you've never heard of it. But this is the technology. This is the access. This is some of the stuff that you know, I have great contacts in the industry that always send me great information from my network that cover this stuff. But, you know, this is the time to get in. If you're really looking for gains with your speculative capital, okay, this is it. This is how you do it. Because you don't see that in the market when it comes to speculative capital. You get 100% gain. You can have NVIDIA and be up 200% and high five, whatever. You don't see the gains. You don't get in early like you can in crypto. And that's why you're seeing such a younger generation go into this. You're seeing the gold crowd go into this and use it as gold. You know, and that Bitcoin is going to be able to fuel, and the drive in Bitcoin Ethereum is going to fuel the rest of the industry. And you're seeing it right now. And it's incredible names, most names that you haven't heard of. It's a little bit of a learning curve. But if you have any questions, that's what this is for. This is why I do this. Try to educate you on stuff like this. Especially someone who's been covering for a very, very long time, who's made mistakes, who's seen losses. Again, it's been a really shitty market for 18 months, but everything that you went through, and now you're saying Bitcoin's up this much, it's here to stay. And there's lots of tailwinds that are going to be around. This is secular change in the industry. And I'll be talking about it. Again, free event, Crypto 2024, Tuesday, December 19th. Put your email in there, Curzio.crypto.com. Very, very simple. And put your email in there. I have this up right now on my screen. But www.CurzioCrypto.com. Free. Ask any question you want. Have fun. Make fun of me. It's going to be live. Unfortunately, you get to see my ugly mug live. But again, I think it'll be worth it with the Q&A at the end, especially a lot of the questions that I'm getting. I just don't have the time to answer all of them from you when you guys email at frankcurzioresearch.com. But going to cover everything. You need to invest, how to invest in the sector, platforms to use, which people ask me about, biggest trends inside crypto. I named a couple of them. And, of course, I'm going to be sharing some ideas with you. So, guys, that's it for me. When I leave, I usually say go Eagles when I sign off. But, man, they got their ass kicked pretty bad by the 49ers. Hopefully, I learned a lot from the loss, like you actually lead linebackers to win in the NFL. But they're playing Dallas. That's going to be a massive game for both of those teams. So, instead, let's go Jayhawks. I have my Jayhawks bottle here. Again, you have more fun listening to watching this on the YouTube channel, but let's go Jayhawks. I can't talk about the Eagles, especially after last loss. So if you're a Wall Street Unplugged Premium member, I'm going to see you tomorrow with my partner in crime, Daniel Creech. I'll see you then. Take care.
Wall Street Unplugged is produced by Curzio Research, one of the most respected financial media companies in the industry. The information presented on Wall Street Unplugged is the opinion of its host and guests. You should not base your investment decisions solely on this broadcast. Remember, it's your money and your responsibility.